My guests this evening on Talk It Over are Ann Day Alexander and Scott Alexander. And you may have guessed by that picture you just saw and by the day in the Ann Day Alexander that Ann and Scott are the sister and brother-in-law of our newest justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, we must confess that we've just done one other program, but there was so much material and so many great stories that you had about the Senate hearings and about the swearing in that we decided to do another show so you could share all of your stories and reminiscence with us. I think we ought to start off by saying that you and Sandra are Arizona, New Mexico girls of the first ilk, that you were raised on a ranch. Right?
Yes, that's correct. We were both born in El Paso, Texas. However, when people ask, I like to say I'm a native Arizonan, but my mother had to go to El Paso, which was 200 miles away, when it was time for the birth.
It was the closest hospital.
But other than that, we've grown up in Arizona and New Mexico.
Oh, I just want to get that background in, because usually when you think of justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, you don't think of a Western ranch person. Tell us some of your Washington stories about what happened when you went back for the Senate confirmation hearings and then for the swearing in.
Well, it was a whirlwind, Ellen, and it's just something that Scott and I will never forget, of course. In fact, when I came home, I wrote it all down so that I wouldn't forget. And what made it so fun for us and so interesting was that Sandra included us in everything that was going on, and she had gone back 2 weeks, I think, before the hearings. But I hope I don't leave anything out. We played tennis at the White House, which was really exciting.
Come on, let's not name drop here.
And that was so fun, and it's really hard to concentrate when the White House.
You stand at one end, you serve from one end of the court, and you're looking right up at the White House. And then as you change courts and you serve from the other end, you're looking right at the Washington Monument. And it's just spectacular.
And while we were playing, Reagan came in with his entourage and drove up to the front of the White House. So that was very exciting. And there's only one tennis court, and it's just in a lovely little secluded area right on the front lawn of the White House. Another very exciting event was when we were invited to lunch at the Vice President's home, and that was really fun. Barbara Bush gave us a tour. It was a barbecue outside, and
the Vice President himself cooked hamburgers and hot dogs.
And then Barbara gave us a tour of the house, which was fun, and to see their home.
Now, we provide the Vice President with a home
we do,
by
and
now.
This is the Naval Observatory, is where they live. And actually, I was thinking, I really don't think I would like to live there. It's not a very luxurious home at all. And I think that she has to keep it in a way that she can take people through the house. But they also have their own tennis courts, and Scott was able to play tennis there at the Vice President's.
With Senator Percy. They are lovely, warm people. On the morning,
the Percys are the Bushes.
The Bushes, and the Percys. But George and Barb Bush are just lovely, warm, congenial people. And on the Sunday morning that he called and asked us to lunch, he said, "Now don't get dressed up." He said, "I'm just wearing Levi's and an old polo shirt." And so we got there.
Okay, now in Arizona and New Mexico, that means
that's right.
Wear your grungies and come on over.
That's right. And so that was kind of the way the invitation was sent. And we got there, and the Vice President met us in the driveway and greeted us warmly, and he had on the most magnificent polo shirt. It was a beautiful forest green, and it had the federal seal here, and it said, "George Bush, Vice President." And I said, "Mr. Vice President, I love your old polo shirt." And he just laughed. He said, "Do you think it's too much?"
So who won the tennis match?
Oh, we just played round robin and just had a good time. I don't even remember what the scores were.
Switched partners. Trying to think of, there were just a whirlwind of things. There were, as I said, luncheons every day. There were a couple of teas. Our senator's wife from Arizona, Susie DeConcini, gave a tea for Sandra, and invited all the senators' wives, and this was before the hearings. And
Now, where did she hold
at her
this
home,
tea?
in her home, and then Senator Thurman's wife, Nancy Thurman, gave, I guess, one of the largest teas ever given in Washington, and had 600 women invited to that tea. Sandra and Nancy stood in a receiving line for 2 full hours, shaking hands with each woman. The line went out for
All
blocks.
over the Senate.
And the women had to stand in line, single file, and go through the line. It was commented afterwards that Nancy Thurmond knew each person by name, that she had a different comment to make to them, and that Sandra had a different comment to make to each woman that she shook hands with. And the list is endless. I mean, all the cabinet wives were there, senators' wives,
Diplomatic Corps.
And it was a big event.
It was the most impressive display of femininity you've ever seen in your life.
Femininity and probably feminism,
Right.
because of course these were the wives of the senators who then had to go
A
and
powerful lobbying force.
vote on Sandra's nomination
Exactly.
and approve it.
Exactly.
So this was not too shabby of an idea to...
They might go home that evening and say to their husbands, I think she's just wonderful. And so I think that that is a good lobbying effort. Another luncheon I thought
Okay,
of was...
hold on a second. We'll come right back and hear about
Okay.
this other luncheon. Now that picture that we were just looking at is a picture of Sandra Day O'Connor, but that was when she was on the Arizona court bench.
I believe.
Yeah,
No, that was her when she was in the Senate.
Oh,
Talking-
sorry.
Talking to Senator Boyd Tenney there.
Oh, I got my pictures confused there. I
On
see.
the first senatorial shots when she was majority floor leader of the Senate.
In the Arizona Senate. Tell us about this luncheon.
Well, I was talking about the whirlwind of activities, and Nancy Thurman, who is really the social hostess of Washington.
Now
and
this
a
is the
wonderful
Nancy
organizer.
Thurman that we all heard and read about, who was this bathing beauty queen,
Former
Miss South Carolina.
Miss
Miss
South
South Carolina,
Carolina.
married to
And
who
a
has
Southern belle par excellence.
but is much more than just a
very
darling
intelligent, very organized
Bright, vivacious lady.
person, and she,
And
her
she's had 4
charm,
children by
they have
now?
4 children. The oldest one's 12.
And Strom is how old?
74.
74,
74.
somewhere in there.
Old enough.
And looks fabulous. Apparently he exercises a lot, looks very fit and very sharp. Nancy's charm prevailed, and one day she managed to put on a luncheon in the old Supreme Court building in the Capitol. It's just a beautiful, beautiful room done in red velvet and dark mahogany, and again broke precedent because she had been told that they did not serve food there and she could not do that, but her charm prevailed and the luncheon was held there. To give you an idea of the whirlwind activities,
Well,
after-
before you get off of those stories, you told me that if a person in Washington were not invited to Nancy Thurman's luncheon,
tea.
for Sandra Day O'Connor,
The one with 600.
yes, then what was the
Well, the
rest?
paper reported that you might as well,
Look for your name in the obituary. You may as well be dead because you weren't recognized.
you
You
weren't
just
invited.
ain't nobody.
Right.
I see.
so,
Let's
anyway, one was going to tell them about the Wolf Trap Ball.
Well, let's do that.
Okay.
All right.
What's
And
the
Sandra
Wolf Trap Ball?
had been under questioning all day, had gotten out at 6 o'clock that evening, and we had to be dressed at 7. Wasn't that it? A limousine picked us up.
Wolf Trap is the National Center for the Arts, for the
for the
Performing Arts.
Performing arts.
Out in Virginia.
And it's beautiful. It's an outdoor theater, and it's just lovely. And so we made a quick change from being at the Senate to formal dress. We're picked up
Black tie.
and taken there. And I might add, the minute Sandra walked in, of course, there were photographers every place. Everyone wanted to be photographed with her on the social scene in Washington. And
She had on a beautiful orange chiffon evening gown. And this young lady reporter came up with her little pad and she's writing, and I was standing there. She leaned over and she said, "What color is that anyway?" And I said, that is judicious orange. And she got it at Penny's. And she said, oh, she did not.
But the thing that happened that night was that there was a drawing.
That's not the same color as
And,
Orange Julius orange, is
No, almost, I guess.
There apparently was, well, not apparently, there was a drawing, and Sandra, who said she's been to a lot of Farm Bureau dinners and things where they have drawings, had
You
never
mean
won
pick
anything.
the-
Uh-huh. And
This was hosted by Rufus Egger, the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue, and Elizabeth Dole, the very lovely and gracious wife of Senator Bob Dole. And go ahead and tell them about the drawing, because it's a cute story.
well, her name was drawn, the O'Connor's name was drawn, and the prize was a trip for two to Morocco. And Sandra got up and
And she won.
she won and was very embarrassed and did not anticipate winning. And it was all very legitimate because we saw them draw the name out of the hat. And she got up and her reply was, I only wanted a one-way ticket to Washington, and that brought the house down. But you can tell them the people we were sitting with. And
Oh, it was fun. Like, as I said, we were with the Doles and the Eggers, and I met Senator Russell Long and his wife Carolyn, who's just a scream. She's from North Carolina. And she says, well, we got to be kissing cousins because we got all kinds of Alexanders down there. And Secretary of Agriculture, and it was just a marvelous evening.
a fun evening.
It was semi-outdoors, as Ann said. The theme was the road to Morocco. The first prize that was drawn was a huge Moroccan rug that must have been worth $25,000. It was won by another couple. And they had a Moroccan band, and then they had a big band, you know, like a Glenn Miller band that played Glenn Miller music, and it was a lot of fun.
We'll be back in a moment with more stories about Sandra Day O'Connor, our United States Supreme Court Justice. I always wonder, and I imagine you do too, just what kind of folk are our U.S. senators and our president and our cabinet members and our Supreme Court justices. So this evening, Ann and Scott Alexander, who are the sister and brother-in-law of Sandra Day O'Connor, our first woman Supreme Court justice, I can't resist saying that. That sounds so good to me, are sharing some thoughts with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Christmas card that the O'Connors sent out before any of this came up? You were kind enough to bring it along, and so, Scotty, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, there are hundreds of Arizonans and people around the country on the O'Connor Christmas list for Christmas cards, and every year is a new treat. And I think one of the most fun things about knowing the O'Connors is the fact that the sense of humor is just tremendous. John, as I've said earlier, is a great stand-up comic, but if we could flash
Okay.
to the card there.
Well, now let's see. We need the first picture first. Can you go back to the opening shot where they're
Well,
folded over there? The cover. Just flip it back for a second there. Can you do that? Okay. Now that's the beginning of their
That's
Christmas card.
John and Sandra.
Okay.
And the caption above says something to the effect that now that the children are gone, we're just
Here we go. Here
trying
comes
to
the
make
caption.
the best of it. Now that all the chicks have flown, we're all alone at home, but every once in a while, is to cheer up a bit, we manage to find a moment or two for
Okay.
just putting around. John and Sandra are avid golfers, and of course, that really crimps their style now in Washington because you can't get out on the links very good with all that snow back there.
Okay.
And also, they play a great deal of tennis. This one is captioned, we hit some short lobs to the net.
Okay.
A sure way to get killed in tennis. John and Sandra are tremendous dancers. They just love to dance, and they always attract a crowd whenever they do dance.
their friends refer to them as swingers.
The swingers.
This one, in the Fred Astaire manner.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. John and Sandra cut a mean rug. And this is the final picture of John and Sandra in their riding attire. They love to ride horseback and take trail rides. And it's interesting because this is long before anybody thought about Sandra for the Supreme Court. And they're wishing people a wonderful holiday season and that our country prospers in 1981 under our new president. Well, we've prospered, at least this end of the country has, for sure.
Well, but I just, when you showed that to me, I thought that was so wonderful, because here they are, average folks like us, but they're average folks who the interest of the government is behind their family is second. I mean, it's there on their Christmas card.
They, as a family, live life to the fullest every day and try and make every minute count, and that's just super.
Now, didn't we bring this year's
Well, we
Christmas
brought
card?
this year's Christmas card, too, which is
Okay, and now this
different.
year's Christmas
Ann, why don't
card,
you read
ta-dam, shows on the steps of the Supreme Court.
This picture was taken by Dave Kennerly, who was a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer.
And that's
And if-
Sandra and
Can
John.
we get all the kids in there? We got Scott on the right, Scott O'Connor, and Brian.
And somebody's
And
left.
Jay is
Jay
the
Bird's
one we
left
can't
out
see.
there.
Okay,
We
let's
have
get
3 sons.
Okay. And the Christmas card reads,
1981 has been a historic year for the O'Connors. The greatest joy has been the love and support we have received from all of you, our dear friends, during the incredible weeks since last June. We look forward to continuing to share our lives and our love with you. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, the O'Connors. I wanted to add, Ellen, that they had 300 friends back in Washington for the swearing in of their good friends from Arizona.
and you told me that that presented quite a problem, because in other times maybe 5 to 20 people would show up for a swearing in.
Well, sometimes, and they had never allowed people to stand in the back of the Supreme Court. And the court, I guess, holds 300 people. So the morning or even the afternoon, the swearing in took place at 2 p.m., I guess just hours before. The Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice Berger, had to make the decision to allow people to stand in the back of the courtroom, and it was overflowing with people standing.
Did the president come?
And the president came, and I might add that presidents do not always attend the swearing-in
Rarely
ceremonies.
attend.
So we didn't know whether he would be there or not, and Scott and I were sitting right next to them. And that was a thrill.
I bet that was a thrill.
So the ceremony itself is very short. It only takes 10 minutes, and I think I might have mentioned to you earlier that of the 2 occasions, the hearings or the swearing in, I'm glad I was there for the hearings, because the swearing in ceremony is very short. And there was a reception afterwards, again, where Sandra stood in a receiving line for a couple of hours right after the swearing in.
It took forever to get through the line because everybody wanted to have their picture taken with the new justice. But it was fun, too, because of the 300 people from Arizona that came back. That was the greatest political convention that ever happened, both Republicans and Democrats, making political book in the lobby of the Supreme Court, and it went on for well over an hour with all the discussion. It was a lot of fun.
What type of chair does the U.S. Supreme Court justice sit in?
Well, each justice has their own chair that's made especially for them by the Supreme Court carpenter. So Sandra had her own chair designed just for her. And
As all the other justices before her.
and Sandra, of course, being the youngest, both in age and in seniority, now the youngest justice, her job is to answer the door in their closed sessions, and she also has to serve the coffee. And when someone knocks on the door, she has to get up and answer the door, and that is assigned to the newest justice.
Has
she has
nothing to do with her sex.
And
Right.
she has to take all of the minutes of all of the meetings, and then when they've decided in their closed sessions as to which cases they will hear and entertain and which they will not, she has to be the one to go inform the staff. Now, we have decided to go with U.S. Steel versus Little Orphan Annie, and as an example.
Okay. We'll come back in a moment with some final recollections of the Alexander stay in Washington with Sandra Day O'Connor. The Alexanders are my guest, and we're going. What did you do with Sandra before she was sworn in? What did you 2 ladies run around town doing?
Well, we shopped, of course, had to continue the grocery shopping and ironing. One of the things was that both of us believe a lot in exercise, and Sandra went to a class in Phoenix, and I, of course, go to classes here. So in Washington, we scouted around, and for about a week, we tried different exercise classes. And then Sandra now has an exercise class going at the Supreme Court for the women at the court who work there, and I think the staff is about 14 women. And then she also some days goes to 2 a day, because she will go to one in town and then go to the court and go to another one there. So she's continuing with her exercise, which is important.
And you told me, just run through some of the things that she does exceedingly well.
Well, she's an avid tennis player. I mean, above average tennis player. She's a good golfer. She's a gourmet cook. She loves to fix Mexican dishes, and that's something they miss terribly back there. And in fact, I sent them some tortillas and tamales from Tucson not long
Care
ago,
package.
which was a big hit in the Federal Express mail. And they're dancers. They love to camp. She loves to ride at the ranch, and she's just very active.
And you shared with me the outpouring of warmth and love from people around the country upon Sandra's appointment.
Well, of course, the mail was just incredible, the amount of mail she got, and she had friends in Phoenix helping to answer the mail. It was amazing to me in Washington, Ellen, wherever we went. And as I said, if we went to the grocery store or to church or wherever we went, people just wanted to come up and touch her. And everybody recognized her in Washington, from the taxi cab drivers to children. And I mean, they just wanted to touch her, and they all knew who she was. And women would come up and say, "Can my little daughter meet you? She's doing a paper about you in school." And foreigners that were in town, but it was amazing.
I think the most wonderful thing of all is not only were the women of this country so excited, but I heard wonderful things from all the men saying, wonderful that we have a woman on the
I did
U.S.
too.
court.
I think that's right, and I think one of the things that touched Sandra the most was when Senator Alfredo Gutierrez, a state senator from Arizona, who was back in Washington for her hearings, told her about some of his constituents in South Phoenix who were so excited about her appointment. And that touched Sandra more than anything I think that she had heard.
Thank you both for sharing with me
Thank
tonight.
you
We
for
really
having us
enjoyed it.
here.
It's been wonderful.
It was fun.
And thank you for being with me on Talk It Over.